Welcome to the Hardwater Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
I bet you're going fishing all the time, my baby going fishing too. I bet your life, your sweet wife will catch more fish than you. Many fish bite if you got good bait, yeah, here's a little tip I'd like to relate. Many fish bite if you got good bait, yeah, I'm going fishing, my baby going fishing, I'm going fishing too.
All right, we are alive on the Hardwater Fishing Show. It's Season 2, Episode 9. It's the second week of February 2019. You can find Jason and I on the Hardwater Show podcast anywhere podcasts are, including Spotify. And I also saw Pandora now has a podcast area too. I was looking on there, so I'm going to check out. I don't know if I can find the Hardwater Show on there, but I'm going to try. And we are primarily active on social media on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also contact us by sending us an email at hardwareshow@gmail.com. That's a great way to share pictures that we can post up. We check that pretty often, if not daily, and we try to get back to everybody. And we do read everything we get, whether or not we respond. So I love seeing all the different pictures and all the different stories that people are sending in. It really kind of makes it worth it for me to do that.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Ton of fun. So, and you can also find us hardwatershow.com. We have merchandise out there if you want to order a sweatshirt, which I have one on right now and it's super comfy. So Jason, What are you drinking this week?
Well, let me give you a little background on it. Okay. This beer's been around since 1865. It's
I can never remember the exact date of your normal beer, but is that
it's
different?
It's an American classic premium beer born in the land of sky blue waters.
Oh my gosh, this might be a different kind of beer.
I regret to inform you that I am drinking a different type of beer this evening because my gas station that I buy my old style at quit carrying it.
Because nobody bought it, or it was the same case that they originally made in like
No,
1890s?
I talked to the manager about it. They were selling 6 cases a month. I don't know. So I put in a special request. We'll see. So I switched to another classic beer, and I like it. It's good. It's brewed in the true family tradition from the purest water and choicest barley malt grains and hops. Do you know what this beer is?
This has got to be
brewed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
What's the name of this beer? It's slipping my head right now. I know it. It's not Blatz, is it?
It is not Blatz. Along the same lines.
Okay, open it up and let me see if I can tell by the sound.
All right, you ready?
Okay, I cheated. I could see it in the video.
Okay, for our listeners, I'm drinking Hams this evening.
Hams, very nice.
Refreshing beer.
That brings up a story, a brief one, and then I'll tell you what I'm drinking. It's a little more local to you, Jason. But so I've been up to Gunflint Lake and up the Gunflint Trail many, many times. My wife and I used to love to go up there. A lot more before we had kids than we do now. But there is a river that flows into Gunflint Lake that's actually in the Boundary Waters and actually in Canada. But the legend or story goes is that you've seen the Hams beer signs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the ones that there in every bar from like 1970, and it had like the water that would trickle down. This stream up by the Gunflint Lake is supposed to be the stream that inspired that beer sign.
Really?
Yes.
I hope it wasn't the waters around Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because I probably wouldn't drink out of those.
That's filtered first, right?
I hope so. Double filter, please. I don't know, my hair's falling out.
All right.
So
I always blame it on my kids.
Jeff, what are you drinking tonight?
So I am drinking the Golden Nugget.
Sounds like a Chinese
Indian
restaurant.
Pale Ale. Well, or a casino.
There you go. What is it called? The Golden Nugget what?
Just Golden Nugget. And it's made by Toppling Goliath Brewing Company, which is located in Decorah, Iowa.
Yeah, Decorah. I was there today.
Really?
Yeah, not to the brewing company. I'm there twice a week for work.
Well, I feel like you need to go there just for me to check it out and, see where this magic juice comes from.
Magic juice. Back in the day, my employer who shall remain nameless, used to have a 1 beer policy for lunch. They no longer have such a policy.
I see.
Unfortunately.
Well, this is a winning combination of Golden Promise malts and nugget hops. This IPA delivers a bouquet of hop, citrus, and evergreen aromas, followed by a floral sweetness. A bold, hop-forward taste captivates the senses, leaving behind a pleasant bitterness that lingers in the finish.
That sounds like Decorah. It's like a description of the town.
So you just drive through Decorah and think Golden Nugget.
Golden Nugget. Beer. Well, let's hear it open. Let's get down to business. It's a can.
It is a can.
You can tell cans just make such a better sound.
They do. And so, like it was a couple weeks ago where the beer kind of sprayed all over the place. That just kind of happened again. And
you have poor beer control.
I know. And so my wife has started to listen to every episode now because I hear feedback.
Really?
And yeah, so I got the next day, I'm like, so I heard on your podcast you spilled beer on the keyboard. And of course I went down there and yep, there's beer on the keyboard. So she had to clean it up. So I got in trouble. That's right. Yes.
Crumbs and such.
Yes, it was a mess. I don't know. So anyways, so here we go. It's good stuff. Cheers.
So what are we talking about tonight other than golden nuggets?
Well, there's one thing that I like to do when I'm drinking my beer and ice fishing. There's a third piece to it, and it's food. Ah,
yes. Yeah, you and I don't miss many meals, do we?
No. It shows. I had to buy different pants this year because my other ones weren't fitting as well as they used to.
Stuff shrinks, man. I think it's these new energy efficient washers. I think it shrinks the stuff in there to make it use less water, and then it forgets to expand it again. I don't know. I don't ever look inside of them, but I bet that's what's going on.
I'm going to go with that. It's not that I eat too much. It's that my pants shrink.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I just keep moving the waist down. And then when you hit a certain age, you move it back up, I think, is what happens.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so food. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm always excited about food.
I'm with you. I'm very excited about this topic. But first, we have some things to go through. We have about a half hour material before we get to our topic, as you all know. So let's roll. What do we got? We got a fishing. What do we do first? You want to do the fishing report, reader news, or current events?
I don't know. It's all kind of jumbled in here. So the first thing, I joined this new, these Facebook groups pop up.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny how crazy and fast they grow. So I have been on there's an ice castle owners group, and I don't own an ice castle. I own a ice cave, which is by Forest River, which is just a little different brand. And so they have their own kind of group page, right? But they're very specific to, if you have an ice castle, they'll talk very specific ice castle-y things.
Yeah.
Like, my thing broke and how do people fix it? Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of that kind of stuff. And the Forest Rivers are kind of the same way. And it is actually, the Forest River one was really helpful for me when I first got mine, because I asked a lot of questions about, like, how do you do this? What did you buy? What did you do? Like just lots of great things you can learn if you buy a wheelhouse, because there's a lot more things that go with a wheelhouse than like a portable shack.
Have you looked for forums at all? Like back when we used to we had a camper at Rockwood Rue, and then we had a Coleman pop-up, and there was camping sites all over, and very specific sites for particular models, just like what you're describing. And so the forerunner to Facebook was the forums, the web forums. And so there was very specific threads about, if you want to fix your bunk end because it broke, this is how to reinforce it, or here's a problem with this model. Have you looked at all on just general like RV owner forum sites, or does anybody, I haven't been on that stuff in a while. But I know like, for my car, there's still, and I'm sure you've probably noticed that with your Mustang, that there's forums yet that are very active. But have you checked that out for your wheelhouse at all?
No, I haven't found a lot of forums that are very active. There's a lot of history in the forums, but I feel like everything's kind of moving to Facebook, right? It's pretty active on Facebook. People put a lot of posts on Facebook. I'm sure there still are some active forums, but even for my Mustang, I'm part of I have a Mustang group that I'm in, and I follow that, and they have a lot of good stuff. And then you can search the old things that people have posted. I would say the only disadvantage there is like what they talk about is kind of short. It's not Twitter short, but you're not going to get those nice write-ups like you'd see in those forums where they'd write quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still use that for working on cars and stuff. Where, like, we have an old Nissan 350Z that we do autocross with, and I mean, you pull up a forum and it'll tell you how to remove the transmission step by step with pictures.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you won't get that on Facebook.
No, you don't.
Maybe YouTube.
You got what would be on Facebook? I need to replace the transmission in my car. You should have bought a different car. Well, I know that, but I mean, you're right. They never. I always love it. Someone will post like how to fix their Jiffy auger, and it'll be like, "Well, you should have bought a Eskimo." Yeah. Well, okay, but I still need to know how to fix my Jiffy. It's just brutal. Oh God. Yeah.
So then you get 100 comments about why that was not good. Anyways, I think we might be off subject.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know.
No.
But
yes.
Yeah, maybe. So this Wheelhouse Warriors is manufacturer non-specific site about wheelhouses. So you'll see Ice Castle stuff out there, My Ice Cave, Forest River. You'll see the other brands like Yeti and stuff. I haven't figured out if it's useful yet, but in like a week they went from 0 or a few people to like 1,000. But we'll see what happens.
Well, those wheelhouse, I mean, those things are just growing leaps and bounds.
Yeah. They definitely are. Everybody's out there and they're comfy.
Oh, your kids look incredibly comfortable when they're in that thing.
Yeah, I know, in their blankets on the back seat,
yeah,
like watching TV and fishing.
Yeah.
I think real people who are mobile fishermen like look at that and go, "Oh my gosh, what is that?"
It's comfortable, is what it looks like.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I don't know how you ever toughen the kids up. I think you got to throw them outside and make them fish.
Well, I think we're gonna have an upcoming episode about fishing styles, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So
okay.
So I just wanted this Wheelhouse Warriors. I found it was interesting. Next thing, fishing report. Should we move on to fishing report?
Absolutely.
Jay? You were out on Sunday night. So
no.
Looks like you had.
Nope, not Sunday night. I was out Saturday morning.
Oh, okay. Saturday morning. Oh, I was out Sunday.
You were out Sunday night.
Who's on first?
Not me.
Okay. So anyways, you went out Saturday morning.
I did.
And tell me about how that went.
First of all, I got to brag myself up a little bit. I actually, for once, in which never happens, so that's why I'm feeling pretty good about it, I perfectly executed a plan and it worked. And I never have that happen, hardly ever. So my son needed to take the ACT, and so there was multiple locations, and so one of them was in a spot about 5 miles from a lake I've been wanting to fish, but it's about 45 minutes from here, and it's off a road that I always drive up back and forth to work, and I don't like to do that on the weekend. So I'm like, well, so I had him schedule the ACT at this location, and then I was able to go fishing in the morning while I was taking the test. Wow. And I did this like a month ago.
So you pre-planned a trip a month for the day.
Yes.
On a certain lake.
Yes.
Wow. That's impressive.
And it worked out, and the weather was half decent. And I caught fish.
That sounds like
I should have bought a Powerball ticket on the way home.
Yeah, I would have.
I didn't, but I had a good sandwich, so that made it all worth it. But
Totally.
yeah, so I caught.
Well, we are talking about food today.
I know.
So maybe the sandwich is.
It
worth
was.
more than
It was a good sandwich. So anyway, long story short, I went to this little impound. It's a lake, but we make lakes here in Iowa. So this was a made lake, little impound, probably 200 acres, 250 acres. And I caught just a number of just under keeper size panfish. You probably would have kept a half a dozen of them if you had some bigger ones. You would have thrown them in there, but I didn't keep them. And then I caught 2 channel cats. And
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I've never caught a channel cat through the ice before.
I put one on. I don't know if I put it on Instagram or not. I don't think I did. I'll put it on Instagram. I've got a picture of it.
Sweet.
And then I caught some largemouth bass, some little ones. I think the biggest lesson learned, and just to share, I think, is it was interesting when I would mark fish. I would drill. I would fish that spot when I marked, and every spot I fished for about 3.5 hours, I would catch 3 or 4 fish, 5 fish right away, just one after another, and then they'd stop. They wouldn't go away, but they would, they do that dance where they come up to your lure and go away, come up to your lure and go away. We've all seen that. Yep. So then I switched it up. So went to a little smaller lure, a little less aggressive, so I did that whole dance. Less aggressive, more aggressive jigging, bigger lure, smaller lure. I didn't have minnows, but I had waxies and I had some power bait. So I tried that. Nothing would entice me to bite after those original fish were caught. So then I said, heck with this, and I moved to a different spot, not real far away, but maybe 15, 20 feet, kind of on a different side of the brush pile, and would catch 4 or 5 more, and then they'd go back to doing the dance again. And so that's what I did all morning is, I'd catch those 3 to 5 fish, and as soon as they started doing that dance, I'd give them 5 minutes, and I'd switch spots, never switch lures again, and would always catch the requisite amount of fish, and then just kept moving and kept catching fish. And I never moved far. Like I never moved more than 100 yards from where I started, but just kind of kept fishing that same depth in different spots along that depth. So it was a kind of a neat learning, to kind of reinforce some of that stuff we've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a lot of experiences I've had before too, where they kind of get tired of it or something, and it doesn't seem like the lure matters. Once they've seen it long enough, they're like, move on. Yeah,
and I was switching between 2 poles so I could keep, different size presentations going. And I think it just speaks to, and you'll see articles on the web about this too, and in magazines, you catch the active fish and the ones that are feeding. And then when they're not, you're not going to entice, where you can entice me when I'm not hungry to eat a piece of pizza. No problem. I will eat that pizza. If you sit it in front of me long enough, it'll go. I'll be like, oh hell, I ate that pizza. But the fish have more self-control, I guess. I don't know, than I do. But so once you've caught those active fish, I guess you could sit around all day and see if sometimes they get active again, but I get bored and move on.
If I was a fish and people were fishing with pizza, I would eat it.
I'd have been filleted a long time ago.
Yeah. And supposedly we're smarter than fish, but for some reason I would still be like, pizza. All right. Well, that's awesome. I want to see some pictures. I've never seen a catfish before.
Really?
Well, I've seen a catfish before, but I don't know if I've ever caught one.
Huh. No, I talked to a guy I work with, and they were catching a bunch too at the pond. They were fishing at. They stock a lot of these little catfish in these impounds, these lakes around here.
And bass too. We were talking about bass tactics, and I guess you caught bass fishing for panfish. So that sounds like we talked about last week.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say the bass I caught were worth targeting specifically. In fact, it's easier to get a big fish on the hook, I think, than a little fish.
That's what people who catch little fish say.
That's what I was saying about those bass. Can't believe I was able to get a hook in their mouth. And then it's even largemouths. So their mouths are big anyway, but even then, it was quite a feat.
That's funny. All right. Well, I've been out twice since we last podcast did. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I was out with my son Noah, and we caught about 20 crappies and one sunny. And they were nice ones, like really nice keeper ones. And we were in the wheelhouse, so we were not moving like you were talking about. But I would catch 3 or 4, and you'd wait a little bit and catch 3 or 4. The interesting thing, so I kind of went where there was a whole bunch of other people. Not because I wanted to go by people, because this is a spot I've fished before, and that's the spot I wanted to fish, right? I mean, it wasn't one of those cases where I didn't know where I was going. It was one of those cases where I knew where I wanted to go. It's just everybody else knew it too.
Yeah.
So I was in a town. I mean, there was so many. I was to the point where I don't like to be that close to people, but you kind of knew where you wanted to be, and that's where everybody else was. So it was kind of nice when we first got there. It was pretty busy. So we got there in the early afternoon, and we set up camp, but we caught a few fish, but it seemed like they actually started biting more as it got darker, and people kind of bugged out. And, because we had the sleeper house, we could just kind of hang out all night. And after things calmed down and everybody went away, that seemed like it was easier to catch fish then.
That's cool. So did you guys spend the night out there then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That is so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun. So we've done that, that'll be the second time I've stayed out. We went to Mille Lacs at one time, and then I went and stayed on Minnetonka once. That's when we were that time. And then the third time we were on Mille Lacs, but I came home because I got worried. It was really, really cold outside. And I got worried my car wasn't going to start in the morning. So the fish weren't biting, so I bugged out.
Well, we had that incredible cold snap, so I don't blame you. I mean, that cars get crazy when the weather's like 25, 30 below.
Yeah. It was cold, and of course, then later on, I got pictures from other friends who caught fish later that night. So if I would have hung out, we might have caught some fish. And then Oli, I think, went up the next day and caught a couple of walleyes. So I saw some pictures from him. So they were fish to be caught. I didn't catch them. I've kind of 0 for 2 on Mille Lacs. Been there twice, caught no fish, but did pretty good with the crappies, and they were fun. They're fun. I mean, they were nice sized crappies. They were like 10 inches, 11 inches.
Oh, those are nice fish.
If I was keeping fish, I would have kept them, but they're just as easy to let go. So Noah, he's 7, and he started to figure out how to hold the fish. That was kind of nice. So, we get him, and he was able to put his hand on them without getting spiked and stuff. So we were working on that. So that was kind of fun.
Cool. Very cool.
Then I also was out last Sunday, which was just like a few days ago here. I was out with Andy Clayburn, who owns Fish Daddy Lures. So he has a line of lures, and I will be having an interview coming up here with him and talking about how he started to get into fishing and talking about his small fishing company and some of his jigs. But primarily, we were fishing with this thing called the Dirty Bomb, which
can you don't say that on an airplane. Hey Jeff, did you bring the Dirty Bombs? Yeah. No, I thought you did.
Yeah, don't say that. But what it is,
or at the border.
Yeah, don't mention that at the Canadian border. No, bring them there to fish, but don't mention that.
Oh, that's a great name. I love it. But yeah, it certainly could cause you a problem. Dirty Bombs in the trunk, man.
and then he also has this thing called Jig Flare. Some of his more interesting, and we also use some tungsten jigs when we were out there, and we'll talk about them some more in the interview. But he has a bunch of LED kind of base things. So
neat.
Instead of the Dirty Bomb, the cool thing is it's water activated. So it has a LED in it, and when you drop it in the water, it blinks. But it only blinks when it's in the water.
So you don't have to turn it on and off.
You don't have to turn it on and off, right?
Huh. Well, that's kind of
We'll talk about it a little more, and you can check out his website. And we'll try him out on Devil's Lake when we go there. I've heard they work well there, so we'll try him out.
Do you have 2 of them?
you know what's funny is, so we were fishing, and of course I'm always thinking of other people, right? Like the hard water invitational guys. I'm like, I can't just go there with one.
No.
So yeah, he gave me a couple of them to try out, and there's a green one and the one that has a red lights LED in it. So we'll try them out and see how we do.
Huh. And we'll report back to see if it catches more fish.
We'll see if it catches more fish. So
yeah. So here's how this is going to work. I mean, this is a suggestion, just a suggestion.
Yep.
Is if you start catching fish without that lure, right? You're going to give the lure you're catching fish with to me, and I'll continue to catch the fish, and then you tie his stuff on and see if you keep catching fish or catch more than me.
Okay.
Because we all know you're more skilled than I am, so you should be able to outfish me with his gadgetry and his skill in making lures. You should outfish me anyway, like 3-1.
Yeah, well, I usually do, so I might as well keep it going.
Well, and I'd want to give you the advantage.
Well, thanks, Jay. I know you're always thinking of me.
I am always on your side, buddy.
All right. Andy will be on that interview, and that'll come up here. And then this week on the Hardwater Fishing Show, I got the opportunity to go fishing on Lake Minnetonka with Andy Clayburn of Fish Daddy Lures. This was the first time that we have a recording, an interview on the Hardwater Fishing Show live while we were on the lake. Enjoy the interview. But yeah, I mean, so how did you start getting into selling ice fishing lures? Yeah. You just wake up one morning, or how does that work?
So it started with when I was a kid, I didn't have anyone to teach me how to fish. And we grew up around 3 lakes. I grew up in Apple Valley, and there's 3 lakes. One was called Lac Lavon, Keller Lake, and then Crystal Lake. And one of my good friends growing up named Joe, he took the time to show me how to tie a fishing net.
Yeah.
And taught me how to throw a lure and how to set up a bobber, and that's kind of where my passion started.
Cool.
And then so when I first got my first job, babysitting, I only made $20 a night, and first thing I did is took my bicycle, rode it all the way over to Gander Mountain, which was about 5 miles away, and I bought my first tackle box. And
sweet.
Yeah, and so I bought my first tackle box, my lure, and then fishing rod, and also a reel, and that's kind of what started my passion for fishing. But I also was involved with football and wrestling growing up, and so I got sidetracked with my passion for the outdoors when I was in high school because of the demands of school and sports.
Oh yeah, totally.
But then when I was in college, I got invited back out into outdoors by some of my friends that I actually wrestled with in high school. And so I went to college. I actually went to college for law enforcement, and then I got a 2-year associate's in that, and then I continued my education while I was looking for a job in law enforcement. And in the back of my mind, I always thought, it's a good idea to have a backup plan besides law enforcement to go with that degree, because law enforcement is similar to an athlete, where if you get hurt or injured to the point where you can't perform your duties, you're kind of done. You kind of need a backup plan.
Yep.
So I always thought I wanted to own a business, and so I actually got a marketing degree. One day, I was out fishing with bottom bouncers, and I had LEDs on the boat, and I wondered what would happen.
So summer. This was like summer
fishing.
Summer fishing.
We were anchored up. We were only like 5 feet of water, and the bite was pretty tough. And I was just like, what would happen if I put an LED on this bottom bouncer? And I tried it, and what I saw was a school of bait fish start circling around it. And then about 15 minutes after that, we started catching bass, crappies, and walleye.
Wow.
And one of my friends was with me, and his jaw was just dropping. He couldn't believe it worked. And
Yeah. When you're with your buddies, and anytime you pull this thing out of your tackle box and start catching fish, they're going to be interested, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know when I'm fishing with my buddies, like, if your lure is catching more fish than the other two guys, immediately, like, how many more of those do you have?
Oh, for sure. He was so excited. And he was like, "Oh, dude, you need to bring this to market." I'm like, "Sweet. How much are you going to invest?" And he said, "Nothing."
Nothing.
Yeah. I thought you think it's such a great idea. Well, it is. That was about 7 years ago I did that.
Wow.
So that's kind of what made me think.
Did it, like, start the LED? That's what started the LEDs, because I know the lures we're fishing with right now, which, by the way, this is the first time I've ever done recording while fishing.
Oh, nice.
This is the first time, so that's what spawned the LED, because I know, like, the things we're using, like the Dirty Bomb and then the Jig Flare. So the Jig Flare, too, you know, they're both very LED, very bright.
So I started it with the concept that's called the bouncer flare.
Okay.
And that's with the bottom bouncers with the LEDs. And I was fishing with them for about 5 years, and I saw about double to 3 times the amount of catch rate. And then it got so easy that I would bring my kids, and they were very young at this time.
Right.
I'd put the rods in the rod holder, put a slow death hook with a half a crawler on, and just go slower than you would for walleye fishing, and you'd catch a bunch of sunnies with them.
Wow.
So I thought, well, if it's so easy, kids can use it. Why not? Why not bring it to market?
Yeah, I mean, if you can keep kids interested in fishing and it's that good,
Yeah.
you know that you can keep adults interested. Yeah. I mean, you know, I spent whole weekends like, well, better luck next time. So yeah, but the kids won't put up with that. They'll do other stuff. So.
Yeah, so it started with the idea of bringing a bottom bouncer to market. When was the last time you've seen an innovation to the bottom bouncer? Like a genuine innovation?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't.
Right.
I mean, it's been a long time. And not in my lifetime, I would say. They're about the same as they always are, right?
Yeah, so that's where I thought there would be a need in the market to bring some true innovation to the bottom bouncer with a tried and true, something that your dad had in their tackle box.
Yep.
And I thought it'd be great to bring technology to traditional platforms that fishermen or anglers are used to using already.
Yep. Innovate instead of coming up with something totally different, just putting that LED technology into it.
Right. So just the integration of that. So that's where it started. As I was waiting for my patent to go through, I thought, well, if this works in open water, I wonder if it would work on hard water.
Yeah, I mean, because some things translate and some things don't.
Some things
right?
don't, right? Yeah. So what I did was I took my prototype housing, which was just a 3D printed housing at the time, and I tested it out here on Lake Minnetonka. First time I ever dropped it down, I caught about 15 crappies that night.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
that's success. It's
yeah.
hard to go away from that once you start doing that. So.
And then what I found too was once I moved spots, once it got to like the middle of the ice fishing season,
yep,
I was actually catching more. I ended up catching about 300 crappies in that one season on just that one jig flare, what is now known as the jig flare.
And usually later in the season, you don't catch more fish than you would do at the beginning of the season.
So what was interesting too is the other theory I wanted to test was, does it matter to have a different color light down there? And what I found is, first part of the season it was green. The bite got really tough, and there was a bunch of wheelhouses as a community spot.
Yep.
They all left, and then I was about to leave too because I was about there a week after everyone left, and I still was having a hard time. So I decided, well, before I take the effort to move, I'm gonna switch colors. So I switched to blue, and then I just stayed on that same spot the whole season. Never moved.
Just the color change
Just the color change. Yeah.
It's great when you can find a spot that's by yourself, like not the community. I mean, I fish them too, right? Like you're like, hey, everybody's over there. It must be there for a reason. But it's sometimes nice when they leave, but you can still make a spot produce when everybody else can't anymore. So
So the interesting part too is when I finally brought it to production after I got done with all the behind the scenes work of going through a designer to do a CAD 3D, do the CAD imaging for the plastic, and then going through the patent process, and then now I'm ready to bring it to market. When customers were coming to me saying, "Hey, does this jig flare catch walleyes? Does it catch northerns? Does it catch eel pout? Does it catch?" So they're asking me all these questions. I kept saying, "You know what? I honestly don't know. I haven't tried any of those species, but I'm excited to find out."
Yeah.
And what was more exciting is people started sending me images of their catches. So there's some guys out in Wisconsin called Grim Outdoors. They started catching monster pike, modifying the jig flare.
Wow, that's cool.
So what they've been doing is adding quick strike rigs to the bottom and then using large baits. Because in Wisconsin, you're allowed to fish with perch and other things we can't do here in Minnesota. So pike was off the on the board pretty recent, and then I went up to Mille Lacs and was able to catch walleyes with it.
Yeah.
And caught perch with it now. And
well, if you've caught walleyes in Mille Lacs this year, you're doing better than I have, because I've been up there twice and all I've got was pizza and watching movies. But that's probably my own skill problem than anything else.
Well, it helped because I had a ringer with me, a guy by the name of Nick Cox from Tonka Fishing. So
awesome.
It makes it a little easier.
Yeah, it's nice to have a guide versus I pull up my Navionics and I go, well, there's a road here, first of all, because you got to have somewhere to pull your shack out, and then the second thing is, well, that spot looks good, and I usually have 2 or 3 kids with me, and so once you hunker down for the day, you're kind of like, this seems like a good spot for the day, but that's awesome that you had success there, and that you had a person that could give you some spots. So
so one thing I kind of noticed with the jig flare, the first season I used it was the fish would come. First off, the jig flare primarily is a solid constant on LED, and when the fish will come up to it, a lot of times they'll hit the brakes right before they bite.
Okay.
So what I started doing was experimenting with adding a little bit of like a leader, or what some people call a dropper.
Yep. And
just having a couple inches of separation from that LED made a huge difference. So that's when I created the jig flare with a dropper chain, which is
that's what we're fishing with right now on our dead stick over there, right?
Yeah, we got a dead stick right now, and the one that's on there right now is a fathead. So I had that one, and then I kind of wanted to create a complementary product line. So I had a constant on LED that looks like nothing else on the market, like completely innovative.
Yep.
Almost innovative to the point that it's intimidating to fish with.
Yeah, I looked at it at first. I'm like, I've never fished with something that looks like this before. So yeah, it was different.
Yeah. So what we found out with that one is it's actually kind of a dead sticking rattle reel tip up specialist versus what actively jigging. So I knew I needed to create a product line where I could actually jig. And I knew that I wanted it to be a little bit different than having a constant on LED. So that's when I designed the Dirty Bomb.
Yep, and that's what I was fishing with here. We've put a tungsten on now, but I was fishing with the Dirty Bomb a little bit ago.
Yeah, and so the Dirty Bomb is more of a traditional jigging spoon that most anglers would be familiar with, where you have the metal spoon.
Yep.
But where the difference is on this compared to a lot of different products lines is there's epoxy. It's a clear epoxy. And then inside there's a battery. And then an LED that blinks.
Yep. And it's water activated, right? It doesn't blink, and then you put it in the water, and then it starts. Yep. Almost kind of looks like an eye, too.
Yep. There's a perch eye in the front that covers the battery.
Gotcha.
So, and then there's 2 contacts on the back, and that's the back side is where the LED is as well. And so when the contacts, there's 2 wires that hit the water, and it's the water that actually completes the circuit.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So what I did with that too, and intentionally, was I painted it on the top and bottom, because most of the time when fish feed, they feed up. So my thought was that anglers would get more bites by having that shaded, so the fish wasn't getting hit with the light.
Right.
In its eyes.
That makes sense. I mean, I've heard that. The theory I've heard about why they fish up is because their eyes are on the top of their head, and that's just where they see. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. So cool. Well, I know you mentioned earlier too about when the first time you used the LEDs, like even before you developed your product, about how it tracks the Sorry,
You
got a
bit?
bite. Yeah, I got a bite. Had to take a break there, but
Yeah, and with that one, you're fishing a super ultralight, so you don't have to rush to set the hook on that.
Oh.
They won't feel that. So
that's good to know. Yeah, I always get a little twitchy, like,
yeah,
oh, there's
getting
something
jumpy.
down there. Yeah. But when you put it down there, like, maybe it's not even that the LED is attracting the actual fish you're after, but the bait fish that attracts and brings in to attract you. Is that like
yes, so,
both ways, or?
So there's research on green light. There's no research on the different colors of light. And the research on green light is that it will attract, the bait fish.
Okay.
And then ultimately the game fish would like to eat the bait fish, right? But as far as the other colors, there's not currently any scientific research to suggest that the different colors make a difference. I can just tell you from an angler, I've noticed it does make a difference, because when I'm fishing down here on Lake Minnetonka, it seems that green is a good color. When you go up to Lake of the Woods, you want to move over to red.
Yeah, I've used red and gold. Like, I use gold up there sometimes too.
Yeah.
Red and gold.
So most anglers, when I was just learning how to fish, I just wondered if like manufacturers are saying jig colors, or are they just trying to sell more jigs,
Right.
And so I went through that whole thing, and through my personal experiences, paint colors on jigs matter. And what I found with my personal experience as well is the LED color does matter as well.
Well, that was a great interview with Andy on Lake Minnetonka. We didn't catch a fish while we were on the air, but we did catch some fish after we stopped recording. Really big thanks to Andy Clayburn from Fish Daddy Lures for having me out and showing me his lures and hearing the legend that will be coming up later. And now back to our regularly scheduled show. The other thing I want to talk about is next week we are going to Devil's Lake. Actually, not next week. In a few days, we're going to Devil's Lake.
We are getting so close. I've started to make a pile of stuff.
It takes a lot of stuff to go fishing.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, it does. I've been looking for things. Because a lot of this stuff I only use once a year.
So gear. So I got a couple new things. I got kind of nervous about my wheelhouse spitting out in the ice. And so instead of the little lock that you just put in the tongue, I don't know what they call them, the pin.
Mm-hmm.
I bought one of these things that goes in your hitch and then has like a loop that goes over the top of it.
Okay.
And so I thought maybe that looks more secure. It was bright yellow. So maybe it'll tell people that it's locked and keep the honest people honest. I don't know. That's my attempt at security.
Do people steal them, or they just break into them and take all your stuff? Both. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what a good answer is to that. I mean, I think, we have a container for a club activity that's out on a unattended property in Des Moines, and that thing gets broken into. It's a steel crate. It's a container, like a shipping container. Right. Yep. I mean, we've had them cut holes in the side of the dumb thing.
Yeah.
With a Sawzall. There's so many of these battery powered tools anymore. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's when you go for the honest people honest thing. And if somebody wants to get in, they're going to, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. You just want to keep the crazy kids out of there that are just messing around and having fun and not thinking, the impulse ones.
Yep. So I don't know. I'm going to try. It's probably buying more peace of mind for me because it makes me feel better that it's more secure, whether or not it actually is.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to make you nervous about it, but I think you get insurance, and if it happens, it happens. There's not much you can do about it.
Yep. Have the insurance, got that covered. So the next thing, so we've talked about this a little bit, but I have the Predator 3500 that I use for my generator for my wheelhouse. You said, well, what if the generator is scaring away the fish?
Yeah.
Right? Remember?
That's a thing.
Right. So then last time I went out, I put it on from Harbor Freight. You can get those foam mats, like those puzzle piece mats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I had one of those in my garage. So I put it on there, and that seemed to help a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fish, so I don't hear it. But then I'm looking at this picture on that new, Wheelhouse Warrior site. And there's this guy, my wheelhouse comes with a spare tire, right?
Okay.
So I just stick it in. When I got it, there was a piece of carpet and a spare tire just sitting on the floor. And so usually the first thing I do when I put my wheelhouse down is I take the spare tire out and I just put it outside.
I see where this is going.
I don't know what else to do with it. So then I see this picture of this guy with his wheelhouse, and he has a spare tire, and then he has a small piece of plywood on the spare tire, and then he has a generator sitting on top of that.
That sounds like good work.
Yeah, it's using what you have there.
Yeah.
Because you have to have it anyways.
Yeah.
And some people put them in their truck, but I have an SUV, and I'm not going to run my generator in my SUV, right?
Well, you could, but your wife would be grumpy with you on Monday.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
Why does my car smell like exhaust?
Yeah. So I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to. And I actually think I'm going to do the spare tire, the piece of plywood, and the foam, and then the generator.
Okay.
And I think that'll help. And then it doesn't get water, because I know when I set it right in the ice, it didn't make a huge puddle of water, but, there was some melting going on from the heat from the generator, and that's kind of a pain. So that's my hack. I saw that, and I might put a picture. The guy said I could use this picture, but it's funny. He wasn't taking a picture of his generator setup. He was taking a picture of something else. But I saw that picture, and I'm like, that is awesome. I need to do that.
It's the simple things. People come up with just little tricks like that, and
right.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say.
The other thing I started using was this fishing log called the Angler's Log.
Yep. I have it on my phone.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if I'm totally sold on it, but I started using it because I'm like, I go to these places. Sometimes I don't mark them. And then I catch fish, and I do remember. So I started using the Angler's Log, and it has a ton of options, and I wish it was maybe a little simpler. But it does let you kind of record what lure you did, what fish you caught. You can put the weather in there. And so I'm trying it out to keep track of my fishing, and it lets you mark the spot. And I'm also using Navionics to mark the spot now too. And I think there's a way to not share that. Kind of trying to do that as I get out fishing more. I found this when I went to that spot where I caught crappies. I went back again, and I'm like, am I in the right spot? I'm like, I'm close, because I didn't mark it. Angler's Log. I'm trying it out. I think I might be hunting for something different, because it seems like a little clunky, but I'll try it a little longer.
My brother-in-law showed me this, and he likes it. I put it on my phone. I haven't used it. I kind of forgot about it till you just mentioned it. But the one thing it does have that actually answered a question I think I had last show or a couple shows ago was like how you remember what kind of lure what's the name of the lure. And what this does have is it has the ability to attach a photo to the log. So if you catch a fish and you're like, okay, I want to take a picture of this lure, you can take a picture of that and attach it to the log. So then you could theoretically take your lure to a catalog and figure out what the heck you were using.
I liked it. It just seemed a little clunky. Like I wanted to be able to faster put my information in, but
yeah.
That's
because when the fish start biting, the last thing I want to do is grab my phone and start typing.
Yeah, over the ice hole.
You need a scribe. You're a scribe. Type this in.
Oh, a fishing recorder. Like you're my
court reporter.
That'd be awesome.
They just sit there and take notes.
I mean, when you're catching too many fish to keep up with logging them, that's a good problem. But yeah, I'm going to fish before I log, but I'm starting to use that. All right. Hook remover.
Oh, I got a hook remover, and I don't know. It was an impulsive thing. And it's this little thing that's supposed to make it so you don't have to touch the fish, and it removes the hook. I got it because I wanted to test run it for the kids,
Yeah.
And for panfish. And so I'm going to bring it along to Devils. I'm not putting the link out there yet in case it doesn't work. So I don't want to show people what it is. It's a little teaser here to say I got this thing, and it's
foreshadowing.
It's a little foreshadowing. It's supposed to look. It looked better in the picture than when I got it.
So this is one of those like movie trailers. Imagine a world
where you didn't have to touch the fish. And I'm not against touching the fish, but sometimes when it's like 10 below, you're like, God, I got to touch this fish. And so I'm hoping that maybe this eliminates that problem. Especially if it's I wouldn't imagine you use this like on a 10-pound walleye, but it's more of a panfish thing. And so, and it floats, which
I
is
gotta
good.
see this thing.
Yeah,
like-
it's really underwhelming, but maybe I'll be worst $12 I ever spent. But I haven't used it yet, so I'm just going off looks, and it's I don't know. So I will, but I don't want to blast this company that makes this thing until I've tried it in real life. And I could have tried it this weekend, but I forgot it. It would have been a perfect opportunity. So I'll let you know.
After our last podcast and thinking about Devil's Lake and how cold it was, it's gonna be. I looked at the forecast. Today got in the mail a new pair of Frable i3 ice bibs.
Ooh, fancy pants.
Yeah, they're not that expensive. I wanted to look at Striker Ice. And
Yeah.
they looked really nice, but I kind of went down to the cheaper level one. So I tried them on today. They have a padded butt, which was kind of cool. So when you sit down, you got like built-in padding, and it's got padded knees, and it seems pretty warm.
There's so
So
many
we'll see how they
things I could say about this, and I'm just going to let it all go.
Hey, I already have padding in my butt, but it has more padding in my butt. So that's the food. Back to the food topic.
Wow.
So we're gonna try those out. I'm hopeful that I will not be cold. I think I was so cold last year that I'm fending that off. I also ordered hand warmers and toe warmers, but the bibs were what I wanted to try.
It was cold last year. I read on the internet, which you can trust all the information you get off the internet, that
Everything's true.
that Leech was having a lot of flooding problems this year. So I'm glad we weren't there this year.
Yeah,
Because I don't know what I hate more, freezing or being wet and frozen. Probably wet and frozen.
When you're snowmobiling and you go a mile and you look back and you don't see Dave back there anymore, and you realize he got stuck in a slush pocket like a mile back. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah. And then you're like, well, do we like Dave that much? Yeah, I guess we'll go get him.
Oh my gosh.
So about the third time you start questioning friendships. You're like, do we really? And then you're like, then you're the one that's stuck. And I'm like, maybe, dang it. Hopefully they come back. Yeah.
I got a funny story for you. I went fishing with Andy, and it's always interesting I don't get to interact with our listeners very often, but this was somebody who listens to our podcast, and we talk about Dave and Ole quite a bit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is right? So he asked me, I thought Ole was just somebody that was made up, not a real person. Like a character in our podcast.
He's a character. No, everything we talk about is real, not always factual, but real.
Not always factual. Yeah. So I thought it was really funny how everything seems very plain to me and obvious that Dave and Ole are real people. But he thought we made them up.
Antagonists and protagonists. They're not literary items. They're actually real people. Huh.
Anyways. All right. So
maybe we're the
tip-up
same
box.
person. We just change our voice.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
a weird person.
How would anybody ever? It's just two characters. One person doing the same character. Two different characters.
Could be.
Drinking 2 beers, one with each hand.
That sounds like something I've done before.
Okay, moving on.
Tip-up box.
Well, we're making these. So our friend Ole, who is real,
The real Ole.
yeah, he threw out a challenge to us for our 20th Hardwater trip about making tip-up boxes. Now, there's a couple of these on the market, and they're a little on the pricey side. I saw one thing. They're designed, obviously, to keep the hole from freezing with your tip-up. God, I saw one contraption on the internet that was like $600.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was
ouch.
like a bubbler and a heater and a thing for your auto jigger all in one. But it was like crazy expensive. And then there's I forget, there's a couple of them. Anyway, so we're making our own.
Yep. And I'm working on mine right now. Wow,
Mine
this podcast.
is all done for a prototype. It's not like painted or varnished or tongue and groove or anything, but it will be.
Always will be.
I know it will be. Sean said the funniest thing. He's like, I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, "Oh, I know yours will be all precise," and I'm like, "What? No." When have I ever built anything precise? Good Lord. No, close enough. My friends that work with me, I do set construction, Jeff, for the musicals and stuff for our school. And they coined the phrase within a kilby.
Within a kilby.
Yeah, which means a half inch, give or take. If I can hit it with a hammer and make it work, it's going to work.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're working on those, and I'm waiting to be wowed by your creation.
Wow. Well, you might be underwowed. I might be overselling it.
Sometimes the simplest things make the best contraptions.
It's true. True. All right. Well, we are 40 minutes into the podcast.
Time for the topic.
We should probably talk about the topic now.
Food.
Food.
What's your favorite food on the ice?
So I have the Wheelhouse Pizza.
But that would be a very new thing for you because you didn't have a wheelhouse till this year.
I know, but that's what I've eaten the most on the ice this year is Wheelhouse Pizza.
If I had a wheelhouse, I would have a pizza oven in that thing.
Yep.
Do you have like a pizza pizzazz?
No, it's just an oven. It's got 4 burners.
It's got an oven.
It's got 4 burners and an oven.
I think you should just get a pizza. Well, then it takes up space too.
Yeah, I got a pizza maker. It's called an oven.
Does that cook? Is it cooked pretty good?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though, because you bring that up. Foreshadowing.
Dude, we should have a sound effect in there somewhere.
So I cooked a pizza a while ago, and I like them best when you put it on the grate, right? Like you don't have to have a pan or anything. So I cooked a pizza on the grate, and some of the cheese oozed off onto the bottom of the oven. And it wasn't a big deal when I did that. But last time when we were staying overnight, I cooked another pizza, and then that cheese that kind of dripped a little bit, it kind of started making smoke, right? So I do have a pan in there now to prevent the cheese from melting. But the smoke caused my smoke alarm to go off.
Oh, no.
So,
did you evacuate?
Yeah, we did not evacuate, but at least I know my smoke alarm works now. And
it's good to test things.
Here we are. I told you, like, we're parked in the middle of Ice House Central, right? Like, there's houses like my big thermal house. There's wheelhouses. There's, it's a normal village out in the ice. Everything under the sun. I'm out there. I park my shack, and it's pretty packed in there. And I start cooking a pizza, and my smoke alarm starts going off. So,
see, I've been looking around for the tip up.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a fish here somewhere.
My tip up's going off. But so what we ended up doing was we left the pizza in the oven. I opened the window. Noah took the pizza box and waved it in front of the smoke alarm to keep the smoke out of it. And it is nice. Eventually I figured it out because I have a big fan in the ceiling of my ice shack.
Oh, yeah.
That sucks tons of air. Like
the fantastic fan, I think they're called.
Yeah, so you crack a window and you open that, and then eventually it kind of sucked all the smoke out. And it wasn't that much smoke, but those detectors are really, really sensitive, which is good because, so that's my Wheelhouse Pizza. That's what we did. So it was good once we got it out of there.
So I don't have a wheelhouse, so I don't cook wheelhouse pizza. We've cooked on the ice a number of times, but now if it's just like me and myself, I have a Mr. Heater cooker that I use for heating I have a Nanook or whatever you call it, little clam. And that thing about cooks me out of there, but it
I don't want it. I don't want cooked Jason.
No, you don't. Lots of burnt hair.
This is about food.
But every time I light that thing, I lose more hair off my hand. But I do because I only have I need to get a longer lighter. But anyway, moving on. Is you can just throw a can of any more beef stew on that thing, heat it right up. Open the can and heat it right up on there, and that's about as simple as it gets. You just eat right out of the can. So that's, I think for simplicity's sake, is probably one of the easiest things you can do is just heat up a can of soup or stew or whatever, raviolis if you got kids along, right up on one of those heaters.
SpaghettiOs?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, I can bring some of them along this week if you just want. I'd really simplify my meal plans if I just feed you all SpaghettiOs.
There's no way you're bringing SpaghettiOs.
So, but brats.
Or now you're bringing SpaghettiOs.
I am
You said
now.
we need to bring. Yeah. That and iced oatmeal cookies.
Yes. There will be iced oatmeal cookies. That goes way back, doesn't it, Jeff?
Oh, we've been eating those on ice fishing trips forever.
I think we started because they were $1.
Yeah.
And I think they're still $1.
Yeah, how does that work?
I think there has been zero inflation on iced oatmeal cookies in the last 20 years. Which is either they're really cheap now or they were way overpriced back in the day.
Or they're the same ones in the last 20 years.
They probably have a heck of a shelf life, to be honest. But nothing beats.
Yeah.
They go really good with beer.
They do. They go good with anything. So I put in here about heating. I always said, we could get away with something simpler, but Jay wants warm food. So I know
I think,
you.
when you fish all day, if you want to get mileage out of people, you got to feed them a hot lunch. Then they're happier and they're warmer and it fuels them for the rest of the day. Because otherwise, about 4:00, right before that bewitching hour when you're going to be really starting to catch some fish, people start, I'm kind of getting hungry and I'm kind of tired. And they sound just like that. And
is that how I sound?
Oh, man. Yes. and so you got to feed them. And so that's what I do. I feed them guys.
I go, Jay, I haven't caught a fish in like an hour. Can we go?
Then I give them some soup.
And then let's go fishing.
Soup and a cookie. Get back to work.
Soup and an iced oatmeal cookie. All right. So some of the ways I thought about talking about some of the ways that we heat up this food, right? You talked about your buddy cooker, but in the past we have drug a Coleman stove.
Oh my God. Is that a legend though? The stove legend?
I don't know, but
Did we can
talk about it. But
oh my God.
I would recommend to find something lighter and better than a Coleman
stove. Do not use
a
Coleman stove when it's below 20, like below 0. So it was not good. So I was heck bent on cooking. I had brought
the kitchen sink.
No, it was pita bread, and I was stuffing it with like what do you call it?
Pork?
No, it was cheesy beef, but that's not what it was. I'm completely blanking on the name of Philly beef.
Philly beef.
Yes, Philly beef. And I was going to put it inside a pita pocket so it all fit in there nice and neat. And so I had to heat this stuff up. And we had this Coleman stove and the seals were too cold. So I'm heating the gas tank of the Coleman stove over the sunflower heater, propane heater. Remember, I'm inside Ole's ice shack.
Yep.
And like I'd get it going and it'd kind of blow up and it'd go poof. And you'd see all the flame.
Yeah, I think I can see it. I can see it outside the shack. You can see the shack like light up in the inside.
It was at the point that day that I was going to cook that damn beef or I was going to die trying. And it got close to dying.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't catching fish. I'll be darned if I was going to fail at lunch.
So don't bring a Coleman stove when it's below 0. It doesn't work.
So here's what I would recommend. I started using, and they make a variety of these, but I use a little Primus trail stove. And it's a little, I bought it at Walmart for like $15. And it's a canister stove, and it uses those little camping, not propane, but little camping sealed gas one-use canisters. Well, you don't refill them, so you use them until they're gone. And they make a 4-season fuel for those that's good, like on the top of Mount Everest. And the beauty of that is it's designed to operate in super, super cold temperatures when you're ice fishing. The other beauty of it is the stove canister's the size of what? Like a Denny Moore beef stew can, really, right? Like the bigger ones. Small. And then the stove itself would fit in your pocket. And the reason I like that Primus stove is it's got an adjustable burner on it. And it's pretty stable.
Yeah, that thing is awesome. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's the ticket. And
Yeah.
we've had warm lunch ever since.
Yeah, it's just real simple to use, and I bring it sometimes with the kids, and you want to make hot cocoa or something, if you don't want to mess with a thermos or you want to heat something up. And if you end up not doing it, it doesn't take up all this space.
You don't have to pump that thing.
No, you just turn it and light it, and off to the races. And we've grilled out there, and some people do that. It just depends on the weather. We have had such crap weather on so many trips that it's hard to count on being able to grill.
Yeah, it gets cold, and 20 below and grilling is just not fun.
No. No, I did that this weekend. It wasn't 20 below, but it was like 0 and snowing on my head, and I was trying to cook a pork butt or two. Maybe we're just getting soft.
We are getting soft. All right, well, some of my other favorite things that I bring out there is sandwiches. I know they're not warm, but you make some mean sandwiches sometimes with like 25 pounds of meat.
Well, then you only have to make one. But, you can do the same thing with a sandwich. You can take your sandwich and make it at home, and then just wrap it up in tinfoil, and you can throw it on top of that Mr. Buddy or that Mr. Buddy heater cooker deal. Not real long, because those things are hot. Don't throw it on there and then go talk to somebody. You got to keep track of it.
Yep.
And then you talk about this because you bought one of these, the Buddy heater grate.
Yeah, I kind of said I want to hear from somebody that worked well for them. I don't want to say it's not a good thing to use, but I have not used it successfully. So I don't know. I'd love to hear from somebody that says, yeah, I used it and it worked awesome, and how you use it, because we tried it outside and it just didn't really heat up hot enough.
Okay.
So, yeah, some of my other things, bars and trail mix and beef jerky. I like those things that don't squish. A bag of Doritos doesn't make it very long in the in the ice shack bouncing around. So,
yeah.
So you got to find things that don't turn into dust. So,
well, and I think you always have to remember what happens when things get really cold too. So like a Snickers bar, you can chew on that thing for 45 minutes before you get it soft.
Yep.
Break a tooth.
Yep.
Beef jerky, venison sticks. Yeah, we do a lot of those.
Yeah, they're easy to pack, and they deal with the cold or whatever, and they don't squish or turn into dust when you put them in the shack.
Yeah, Doritos are not a good ice fishing.
No, Doritos, anything like snack bag kind of stuff. I
try to
good.
Stay away from anything you got to lick your fingers after you've eaten it. So like Cheetos and fishing have just never been a thing for me. Because I'm like, that tasted like minnow
I get to see
cheese.
Jason catches the big northern, the slimiest,
I know,
biggest
and
northern.
it's on your fingers, and you're trying to eat Cheetos.
Northern slime.
And Cheetos? God,
Cheetos.
no, I'm not gack. No way.
That's going to be the next flavor, northern slime Cheetos.
Yeah, I'm off Cheetos permanently. That point, no way. Yeah, that's so you're try to think of things that don't stick to your fingers, I guess, when you think about food.
Yeah. Our legend this week comes from Andy Clayburn of Fish Daddy Lures.
Many years ago, we went up to my friend's cabin, which is way up north. It's just south of Ely. It's in Superior National Forest.
Okay.
So it's only 8 miles south of the Boundary Waters.
Oh, wow.
So cool. Imagine the majestic views of the Boundary Waters.
Yeah.
But then you also get to use a motor.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Okay. So his piece of property is on a peninsula. He's the last house on the property. There's only 4 houses on the whole lake.
Wow. That's
So a quarter mile from his cabin all the way to the point, it's all Superior National Forest, so no one's on there.
That's awesome.
So when you look across the lake, all you see is pine trees and aspens, and no development.
Wow.
There's only 3 other cabins if you look to your left. That's it.
A little different than Lake Minnetonka.
A lot different.
Yeah.
And then it's also different too because it's. Have you ever seen those bog stained lakes that are kind of like root beer colored?
Yep.
Yeah. So, very dark lake, very shallow lake. Has giant boulders all throughout. the deepest spot in the whole lake is 13 feet.
Okay.
So the majority of it is 7 feet or less.
Wow.
So we're fishing for walleyes in the spring near this inflow creek. It's just a tiny little creek. And imagine looking at a tiny creek, and then as you're anchored up on a spot, you can see, 8-foot boulders coming out of the water.
Wow.
And then some smaller ones, they're just protruding a little bit, but it's all root beer stained. You can't see them, right?
Right. I see where we're going here.
Yeah. It's called foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Recently in a podcast, we had foreshadowing, so we're doing it again. So awesome.
So we're fishing amongst this inflow of water in the spring, and walleyes are in there. We're catching quite a few, one after another. So my friend and I are fishing on a pontoon. Now, don't think of a luxury pontoon that you see on Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah.
We're talking a 8-foot by 8-foot homemade pontoon.
Right.
that-
Steel pontoon.
Steel pontoon,
Yeah.
yep. And you can control it. You got one wheel in the center, and then it has 2 cables that run to the side. That's just like a safety spring cable.
Yep.
And then, but in order to use the throttle, there has to be another man back there actually throttling.
Okay, that was even further than I was thinking. Yeah. Okay, I got the picture now though.
So, very old Johnson motor. Surprised it even runs.
Yep.
Sort of thing.
Yep.
So we're out there fishing in the spring. It's fairly cold. It's about 40 degrees outside. But then the wind starts picking up, and then we start getting hailed on.
Ooh.
But we were catching fish, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is some of the best walleye fishing we've had,
Wow.
one after another, right? So we're gonna toughen this out. And then the winds started picking up even more, to the point where we could no longer hold on anchor.
Wow.
And it got to about 40-mile-an-hour gusts of wind.
You're in a pontoon, which is like not exactly going to cut through the waves, right?
Yeah, it basically was a sail.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So our anchor pulled up. We started drifting in towards the boulders.
Wow. Oh boy.
And then
Whoa.
soon you heard those the pontoon start hitting rocks.
Ooh.
So I
Oh.
tried starting the motor, but the old motor doesn't want to start.
Of course. When you need it to, that's when it's going to fail.
So I decided to jump in the water to save the pontoon.
Oh my gosh.
From getting
Beat up.
shipwrecked.
Yep. Shipwrecked out there.
Yeah. So I end up, when I jump out, I landed on a boulder, just a random boulder.
Ooh.
And I was holding this pontoon in the wind.
Oh.
Meanwhile, we have 2 other friends in like a 16-foot lund coming in,
Yep.
seeing this whole thing from afar, just laughing at us.
Nice. They're going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
That's what my friends would do. They'd laugh at me
Yes.
like, oh, that sucks to be
We
right now.
can't get the motor started. They're just they think it's the best time of their lives watching us struggle. So finally, my buddy gets the motor started and he's able to get the pontoon out. But guess who's still on the rock in the middle of a lake?
You're still standing
It's
there.
still standing.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So finally, my buddies that had the nicer boat, they were kind enough to rescue me.
So what time of year was this? Did you
Spring.
Spring.
Yeah.
So it's cold,
It was
right?
like 40 degrees
Yeah,
outside.
that's what I figured. And the water up there is probably not warm anyways. But
No.
wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a story. That sounds what my buddies would do. That's awesome. It's funny the lake that shallow and that bog stain would have that. I'd be thinking sunfish and northerns and not a walleye.
Oh, there's northerns in there too.
Yeah.
Dude, he put a. Are you done recording?
Yeah, we can stop. Yep.
Yeah. We're on the Dead Sea over here, man.
Exactly.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll give you our update on Devil's Lake on our next podcast.
Cheers. Special thanks to the show this week, to Trapper Shep again for our theme song, The Fishing Blues, for his permission to use it, and also to Andy Clayburn of Fish Daddy Lures for being on the show and taking me out to Lake Minnetonka fishing.
I bet you're going fishing all the time, my baby going fishing too. I bet your life, your sweet wife will catch more fish than you. Many fish bite if you got good bait, yeah, here's a little tip I'd like to relate. Many fish bite if you got good bait, yeah. I'm going fishing, my baby going fishing, I'm going fishing too. out of my mind, saying, can I go fishing with you? I took him on down to the fishing hole. Now what do you think he'd do? Pull the catfish by the bottom of the pond. Now he laughed and jumped and he was real gone. Yeah, many fish bite if you got cool bait. Yeah, I'm going fishing, my brother going fishing, I'm going fishing too. Baby, put them in the pan, cook them till they're nice and brown. You can catch them, release them out that trophy fish up just to keep them around. Any fish bite if you got good bait, yeah, here's a little tip. I like to